What seems too expensive, but is really worth the price? Story 1. If you fly even occasionally, noise-canceling headphones are worth every penny. With just the noise canceling on without playing any music, it significantly softens most sounds. When you listen to music, videos, whatever with the noise canceling on, you can't hear anything else, even crying babies. Story 2. Genuine Irish butter. So let me acknowledge up front, I'm a boomer. Now we got that ugliness out of the way, I can tell you this heartwarming tale of falling in love with Irish butter. When I was a kid, we only had the cheapest brand of margarine at home. My parents were both children of the Depression, and they were really poor and grew up to be really frugal. Crappy margarine just kind of tasted oily and gross, and I never really liked it. My best friend's parents were rich, so they always had actual butter, but it was just some regular name brand butter. I tasted it, but I wasn't impressed with it either. Kinda blah to me. I spent the next 40-ish years and raised a family of my own. Never really eating much butter or margarine except maybe in cooking cause I thought, man, what's the fuss? My wife never really made much of it either. We were just boring, no butter people. However, about 10 years ago, I went to Ireland with my wife, her business trip, me as a tourist, and we stayed in a nice hotel. Went to breakfast, and they had all this fresh bread and mounds of this beautiful golden stuff that I mindlessly spread on a piece of warm bread. I thought, my God, what sorcery is this taste? Anyway, long story just to say, spend the extra money to get imported Irish butter. My LDL levels say, thanks, while my tongue says, spread it thicker, big boy. Eat it like yogurt. Story 3. Clothes that are made well with a slow fashion versus fast fashion mission in mind. My favorite clothing brand sells their wool button-downs for about $120. Some would say that's way too much to spend, but it's beautifully made from recycled clothing, good for the earth. Weather-resistant, simple but elegant. And if it rips or tears, they will repair it. Or if it is not repairable, they will send a new one. This is a lifetime guarantee on the clothing I buy there. I don't buy extremely often, but investing in ethically sourced and produced clothing is really worth the price in my opinion. I think repairing clothing versus just throwing it away and buying a new one is the proper idea behind well-made clothing. Not a 10-year guarantee, but lifetime. They also take care of their works, and I do care very much about the conditions under which my clothing was made. Story 4. I might get downvoted for this, but I hope I make my point effectively. I buy art, handbags, and jewelry that appreciate over time in case I fall on hard times and need to liquidate on short notice. One art piece I sold for double what I paid for it when I lost my job once, and it covered the bills for the month. I've since replaced it with a much larger version, and that has appreciated significantly as well. A handbag I bought less than a year ago was a limited edition Louis Vuitton, and it's selling for triple now on the secondary market. $4,000 to $12,000. If you actually buy things with the resale value and appreciation in mind, it's a smart investment. Plus, you're not filling up landfills with cheap shit that falls apart after 6 months. I tell people about some of the things I've resold for double or triple what I paid for it, and they either get really excited for me, or they get mad and gripe about how they could never afford to do that. Luckily, there's way more of the former than the latter. I bought a big house, and it's appreciated over $150,000 since July 2023. And I am literally not trying to brag, I'm just trying to share my thought process and experiences. Make your spending have potential for good returns. Story 5. Travel insurance. It's not that expensive if you travel semi-frequently. You can get a whole year's coverage. If you don't travel often, you can buy one-time insurance. So many of the complaints either here or elsewhere would easily be rectified with travel insurance. I got sort of quarantined in a hospital in Tokyo. It was well before COVID. Essentially, I had bed bug bites, but also food poisoning. Add itchy and covered in bites to sweat and vomiting, and it looks really evil and contagious. I didn't blame them by any means. It was something like 2 to 3 days or 2 nights, 3 days kind of thing. Cost me just over 2,000 Canadian dollars. Everything other than $4 for soap of all things was covered by the travel insurance. Without it, I would have had to eat that cost. Lots of credit cards have some insurance, but I prefer having a standalone policy because I know it works. Story 6. This may be a really unpopular wedding. Before anyone jumps to conclusions about how it's a terrible investment, hey, give me 1 sec. I would pull myself into the group of people who believed weddings were an absolute waste of money. It was something I just truly never understood why people did it, because of how expensive the wedding industry is. I hated the thought of spending thousands upon thousands of dollars for one day, let alone for a white dress. I would always think of other ways money like that could be spent and what my partner and I would do with it. Fast forward, and now we are engaged to get married in September 2025. We are in the thick of wedding planning as we decided to go forward with a wedding. I'll continue by saying that we have had some help with my family in particular. We are not holding anyone liable for helping us pay, and we're incredibly grateful. When we began deciding on what we were going to do, we tossed around a slew of ideas. As we continued to think, and I thought really hard about what it is I wanted to do, I really wanted to have my white dress moment. This moment can look like anything, but I wanted to feel like a bride, and to me, that vision was of a wedding. Being surrounded by all of our friends and family. Of course, we could have done that in Europe, where we wanted to elope just the two of us. But my parents and his parents are still very much alive. Not everyone can travel that far. And the thought of getting ready on my own in a foreign country sounded less and less enticing. All of this to say that it's okay to want a wedding. It's okay to spend money to have a wedding. It's still possible to be frugal about it, or you can go all out. It will cost money, and that's something we had to be okay with. We gave ourselves a long engagement in order to pay things off as we go. It's also okay to not have a wedding. You have to do what makes you and your partner happy, regardless of what anyone has to say about it. Money comes and goes. This is a memory we will cherish forever, and you can't put a price on the core memories you make. Story 7. Near any appliance that automates a task for me. I have chronic pain, usually low-level aches but constant, and joint disorders that will worsen with age, unfortunately. And am an extroverted busy bee, so keeping up with housework and maintenance can be a literal pain for me to balance along with my social life and projects. I hate chores. I'd rather work to afford an appliance that will pay for itself in time saved, convenience, and often my sanity. I say it all the time, but my countertop dishwasher, RoboVac, and electric can opener are kick-ass, and let me lead the life I want to have. In-house washer and dryer for laundry also allows me the immense privilege of privacy and convenience to launder my fabric items that I'd otherwise have to plan, to allocate precious time, energy, and money around packing and schlepping my stuff to a public laundromat, and hoping there's enough machines and time to get everything washed and dried. I would be absolutely miserable without my lovely house robots. Recently, I got a litter robot so I could justify having a third cat, and it's a dream, basically. I just empty a drawer and replace a trash bag every 2 days. No fuss and no muss, and my kitties get a fresh pan of litter to step into every single time. Previously, I was having to scoop 2 massive litter boxes several times a day, and then empty and deep clean the pans every week to maintain them and keep the odor to a minimum, but now I just push a button with my foot if I want it to run in between uses again. It's so nice. Literally everyone wins. I also put a dehumidifier pack in the drawer which has charcoal filters, and it's so awesome. The thing has easily paid for itself in the reduction in litter use too because it's self-sifting. My air purifier tower and dehumidifier unit have also improved the overall air quality in my house, which is important when you have asthma, pets, and live in a state consistently on fire. And minimal dusting! One more chore was mitigated. Story 8. The ad-free version of services. Ads work, and they work on everyone, including you. No, you won't actually remember to hate and avoid buying from that one company whose ads you hate, because at some point you're going to forget about the annoying ads, but you'll still remember that you've heard of the brand before. Then you'll pick that brand because I've heard of them, I don't remember where, but that seems more legitimate. It's very hard to know exactly which ads work on who, but on the whole, advertising gets people to spend more money and buy more things. If ads cost more than they made in revenue, companies wouldn't spend so much on advertising. Reducing your exposure to advertising will reduce the degree to which you are convinced that you need to buy things. And when you do need to buy things, it will help you make better decisions without the influence of brand marketing. Not everyone can afford the ad-free version of things. If possible, I suggest you just give something up rather than use an ad-supported version. Being able to afford an ad-free experience is like Vime's Boots theory, but for your brain. Story 9. Legal advice. Paid over $16,000 to get my anti-vax conspiracy theorist mother to allow grandma to get vaccinated against COVID. My mother called every lawyer in town to try and find someone to represent her, and every single lawyer refused. The one that actually bothered to talk to her said, "If you're offered a deal, take the deal. This doesn't end well for you." I know this because my aunt, who is way into spiritual woo-woo, but still believes in science and medicine, was giving me the inside scoop. So we offered a deal, and Mom took it, Grandma got vaccinated, and just in time, COVID ripped through her old age home 2 weeks later. But nobody died because everyone was vaccinated. Shocking. Story 10. As a former chef and someone who still cooks all the time, I say high-quality kitchen equipment. I pay more for one knife than most people pay for all the knives they own. I've had the same knives for almost 40 years and they still are perfect. They hold an edge and are perfectly balanced. I also own very thick and heavy French-made copper pots and pans which also cost a fortune, but so worth it. I also have a robot coupe food processor that cost me about $700 in used condition that is so powerful and solid that I'm sure I could puree an entire human being should the need ever arise.